Right, on the dot, 4 o'clock. So today we've got Graeme Thomas telling us all about the Chiron DZ. So looking forward to this one. Are you here, Graeme?
Off.
Say that again, mate.
Yeah, I am. Yeah, looking forward to it.
Okay, you know how it all works and share screen and all that sort of stuff, or you just got to talk?
No. No, John's given me a training course on it, so I should be all right.
Right, okay, over to you. I'll mute myself. Good luck.
Thank you.
You sure you're all right?
Yeah, no, we're getting going. Right. There we go. Okay. Right, so just wanted to start just telling a little bit about an introduction of myself. So I'll just get rid of my face. So, just want to introduce myself as Graeme Thomas. I'm your Business Development Director for the ETG Group. Just a few positions that I've held within the company over the years. Originally started back as under Chiron UK as the Area Sales Manager for the South region. That was my first post within the company. And then on a second role back into the company led to UK Sales Manager. And then under another post as Technical Director of Special Projects, which gave me a role to look at project management on the Chiron brand, Handman and Starmer, and was able to look for detailed turnkey projects around the UK. So a very, very interesting role. And then my final role in my second stint within the company was as Key Account Director, working with Martin to generate our top 10 companies to work with around the UK and develop and maximise the level of revenue from that particular business as well. So just a few pictures of a few happy notes and things that I've had over the years with Chiron. Some good evening events and things that we've done, as well as some good interviews and some good knowledge of the product. Just threw a good picture in there of myself. First investment as coming out at 20 years old as a young engineer, just finishing my apprenticeship. And first investment was to go and buy a white suit, as my favourite programme at the time was Miami Vice. So I was thin and young at one particular point. So where did it all start? I joined Chiron UK in 1998, which obviously went on to form the Engineering Technology Group as we know it today. This is now my third time lucky back into the group. Under Chiron UK and ETG twice, and I must say grass isn't always greener when you move away to other businesses within the machine tool industry. But to be truthful, now that I'm back for the third time, I do know that this is probably the happiest place I've had with Chiron and ETG, so glad to be back in the company. On the left-hand side, I've shown a picture of my first Chiron that I sold when I first joined the company. Was to a company called Redline CNC, which is actually still a current company known to ETG at the moment, a big Quasar user. But they first started off with 3 Bridgeport VMCs and the Chiron FZ08W that I sold them in a very, very small unit behind an MG renovations workshop in Surrey. And the first machine that I sold was at a value of £49,950, which is now really in line with our new launch on our Vulcan product today. So quite significant in the price difference there. If we look at the same machine with the same specification to be sold in 2020 against the current price list, that machine that was sold at 49 grand would actually be sold for 166,000 today. So quite a big jump in that same level of machine, albeit it has jumped up in technology and various things have changed on there to make it for the better. So under Chiron UK in 1998, to give you an understanding, we were probably selling between 50 and 70 units per annum, which obviously we'd give our right arm to be selling that number of Chirons within the group today. But I think the price and everything else has had our part to play on that. But I would say back in the late 90s and early 2000s, we did have a strong British supply chain. Automotive was very, very strong in medium and high volume markets. And we had the emerging telecom market as well, with electronic boxes, masts, as we were moving into the mobile technology market. And that was certainly very, very good for me in selling these machines as a high-speed Chiron for doing aluminium boxes was extremely useful. Other good route for me as well at that particular time was casting companies that were making aluminium castings, having to machine various faces, drilling and tapping, and needed to get those components through the machine as quickly as possible, was also a very, very good outlet and kept me very, very busy. One other thing to highlight from Rob Waite's presentation that he showed us on Friday for Highfall was some of the body piercing parts. And my very first turnkey with this style of FZ08W machine was actually to a company in Bristol that was involved in that for making body piercing parts. And it certainly gave me my first highlight into royalty when I was introduced to the Prince Albert, which I must admit was quite shocking at the time when I remember looking at that. So Chiron is one of our major principles. Chiron only make vertical machining centres. That's all they produce in 3, 4 and 5 axis configurations with multiple spindles, swivel heads and 2 axis rotary tables as a further option as well. The turnover of their company is roughly around £410 million, with more than 2,000 employees within the business. And our working relationship with Chiron now is reaching 24 years by the end of 2020. The picture you can see up in the top right-hand corner is one of our client visits, what we used to call our study tours. And this is a picture from the last one that we did in 2017, where we actually took over 30 customers to see the factory, to understand a little bit more about Chiron's philosophy. A majority of people in that picture are still good clients of ours today, with further developments and relationships moving forward. To understand a little bit about the Chiron philosophy, one of their good points is their marketing material is second to none. And certainly when we're sitting down with a customer, we're able to very, very quickly be able to show what the configurations and specifications could be through the Chiron symbols, which are small icons that we can pick out for every machine series. So with the main spindle configuration, we have the FZ, which is the single spindle, the DZ double spindle configurations, which we're going to talk a little bit more in detail shortly. And within the 15 series, we also have a 4 spindle option called the TZ. Within those heads, we also have the swivel head or B-axis configurations as well, giving us a little bit more flexibility. From a tool changer perspective, we have the basket tool changer, which is Chiron's patented design with a sub 1 second tool change time. And I've got some video and some bits to be able to show you a little bit later. The K-style machine, which is the chain magazine or the pickup stations, where the spindle picks the tool up directly from the chain. And then moving on to table configurations, very important, talking with customers what options we have. And we have a standard fixed table 3-axis through a pallet changer, 5-axis through to long bed configurations, which are mainly in the mill series now. So from a technology package, we also offer a multi-profile machining system, which allows us to machine from extruded forms in a very small machining platform, but very long extrusions. And we have a very good sell of these machines at TE Connectivity in Swindon, doing parts for the Airbus A350. Another big part of Chiron's business is in alloy wheel machining. Was very strong once in the 1990s in the UK, but as we lost that to India and China and Central Europe, wheel manufacturing is not so big in the UK, but they're very, very good at it around the world. And obviously for Chiron to be able to offer great turnkeys, which they can do, the automation systems are very, very key to lending the throughput and productivity of their machines. and Chiron developed their own Vario cell, which is taking the part to the fixture rather than through a pallet loading system. So we come to the DZ program, or double spindle. The DZ machines was originally launched back in 1984. And certainly the first machines had the painted basket tool changer machine, which is 0.9 seconds tool change. And on the DZs, the early machines are 2 times 12 tools, so a very dedicated productivity machine. 25% of all Chirons sold are double spindle machines, which is as a quarter of their production. They produce roughly around about 800 machines per year. So quite a significant number of machines as double spindle. There's more than 3,600 DZ machines globally that have been running around the world as we speak. And predominantly the DZ program really does suit the mid to high volume product range, which is first tier to the OEM market, which is where we've been most successful. OEMs can understand that this level of productivity for their own products is the right way to go. So certainly when we're sitting down with customers, we are looking for serial production, somebody who's making a series or a long series of the same components, which makes it very easy to get the best out of these machines. And Chiron's strap line is seconds ahead. And certainly what that means is being able to maximize the productivity of the machine, limiting the amount of downtime, and being able to make tools change as quickly as possible, workpiece changes as quickly as possible. So we're getting maximum productivity. And the most important thing to mention is 2 heads are always better than 1, here demonstrated by Holger Hell from Chiron and our group managing director, Martin Doyle, who's giving him a talk on the best of British manufacturing. Here, taking a bit of advice from John Mannion, I've prepared a short 15 minutes video just explaining a little bit more about the DZs. Oh, sorry, 3 minutes, only joking. So here we go. Just want to show you a little bit more in animation of the DZ range.
That'll do.
So here we start with the small platform, which is the smallest one, the DZ08 5-axis machine, which has been perfectly suited to impeller machining as Chiron's core competencies in the turbocharger market. But as part of their own development, you can see here we've got the Provision Plus machine, which is a new development with linear drives, which is obviously makes a significant difference even over their own machine, new technology changes and developments of their own product. The DZ12 here is showing us with a pickup magazine double spindle, but with a 4-part load, be able to maximize the amount of productivity within the machine. Then we move on to the next series, the DZ15, showing here the pickup of the tools from the chain. But here, the important thing to mention here is with the torque tables built into the 5th axis, it's actually got full mill turn capability here as well. And here we have the DZ16. This is one of Chiron's new developments of moving forward with their first gantry style, where the y-axis is actually coming over the top rather than a travelling column per se. Important benefits here on very complex components, as you can see in the tool changer, is 2 chain magazines on top of each other, which allows for more tools, more complex components, but remaining within the same footprint of the machine without the need for very big background magazines. Now we come to the 18 series, which is the workhorse of Chiron's productivity for the cast steel and forging market, which obviously CNC Speedwell is quite a big user of these particular machines as well. Here you can see the patented basket changer as well, the way that it's designed, where each tool is in its own independent arm, which is on its own pneumatic cylinder, therefore being able to give the fastest tool change possible. Okay, so as we start to look at the DZ program completely, as we have 6 platforms that the twin spindle technology is available on, from the DZ08 through to the DZ25. And within those configurations, we can see that there is actually 25 different options which are available to us when we're sitting with customers to look at how we can actually run a twin spindle machine. So the most important thing here to notice is when we're actually sitting down with a customer on sizing parts, and normally with any machining centre, we look at the X, Ys and Zs to give us the right platform. But when we're looking at twin spindle technology, we're looking at the spindle distance to be able to fit in a fixture, which a hydraulic supplied fixture from Hi4, for instance, and how we can actually get enough clearance in there with the tools. So it's important that we can actually size the part, but also be able to get the spindle distance correct to be able to multi-load as many parts as possible with on the table, would give us that best particular option. So within all of the machines, right the way back from the 08, which has a high-speed spindle options, we go right the way from HSK 40 up to HSK 63 as the tooling back ends. But with some technology being shared with Starmer now, there will be a HSK 100 option for heavier duty applications available within the group shortly. So now the important thing when we start to look at components and we look at productivity is obviously the time per part comparison. So what we're looking at here is a table where we're looking at where the DZ is automatically going to be a 2-part load set against a single spindle, single part load and double part load with 1 spindle. So here we're showing what the productivity gain is just on having 2 parts on the table. It's roughly around about 57% of a standard cycle time regarding to the takt time. And if we then are able to squeeze on 4 parts onto a double spindle machine, that reduces further to 48% of the original cycle time. So therefore, in a lot of cases, 2 spindles with 4 workpieces, depending on size, is actually an optimum way of being able to run the machine efficiently. So important thing that we need to talk to a customer about on anything is floor space requirements set against cost per part. So here we can see if we look at our competitors with a single spindle, single part load, with a machining time of 350 seconds, based on a charge out rate of most companies at £70 per hour, for instance, to manufacture that component on average would cost £6.97 to produce. And based on a production rate of 500,000 parts per year, would lead to an investment level of 11 machines. Where we start to go through the Chiron range down to line 6, we can start to see that we've took that with a double spindle and a 4-part load from 350 seconds per part down to 110 seconds per part. Therefore, obviously reducing the cost of manufacture per part down to £3.36. And as we can see, by running those particular machines, the level of energy consumption is much less because we're running less machines and less spindles. We've got a floor space requirement of only 26% based on 11 machines required to produce that volume, which actually leads us down to 4 DZ machines would give us the same productivity as 11 single spindle, whether that's vertical or horizontal. So a very important slide to be able to discuss with our customers. So the important thing about any productivity is to understand what the takt time is and how important takt actually is. So to find the best production solution, we need to know the takt. And to calculate takt, very simple, available production time per day divided by the customer demand per day. So here we have a solution. When we sat down and King Automotive were looking at a potential project with their customer, they needed to make 2 million conrods for JLR per year with a takt time of 11 seconds. So who are you going to call? Not Ghostbusters in this particular instance, but ETG and Chiron. Sitting around the table, we were able to manage exactly their expectations and be able to get all of the parts through a particular line with decreased floor space and achieve the exact desired takt time of 11 seconds with our production cell. So as we start to look at DZ developments, I want to quickly show you a video briefly of the next development, which is now the DZ25. So this is the next step up from the 18. Important things to notice here is that major design changes with independent spindles. We've got the Y-axis, which is integrated into the side wall of the construction, therefore really opening it up and allowing us to have independent Z-axis. The benefits on the DZ25 from that brief video that you saw there is the new open gantry design, which allows ultimate swarf evacuation through the machine. We have independent X-axis, so as you saw, the tool changers were mounted on both sides of the machine, so the spindles have to move in opposite directions to change tool, but we have a lock function which obviously brings them back on centre line at an 800mm spindle distance, which locks up to the pallet distance in the centre. With independent Z-axis as well, this now opens up other options for different Z heights and tool offsets, which we didn't have previously with fixed head technology. The machine has also been designed with linear motors, certainly in the Y-axis, which gives us rapid speeds now up to 120 metres per minute, and a 1.5G acceleration, which makes highly dynamic machines. Further developments in twin spindle technology from Chiron is the new DZ22, which is the new 600mm spindle distance machine. And that machine has been designed around the 16 series platform you saw earlier, so in that configuration. The new thing to be able to show you as well in further development is the new DZ28. And what we can see here in this small simulation of what we're planning is this is going to be the largest machine in twin spindle technology from Chiron at 1200mm spindle distance. And the machine's really been designed around the e-mobility, which is obviously coming within automotive, and battery boxes, modules, subframes, chassis components. But one thing we can see here in following the 25 is how we can actually operate the spindles independently. We can link them together, as you can see now, which is obviously milling surfaces. But now we're able to see that we can program that in a plus and minus direction, allowing us to be able to get the most effective drilling or tapping around that component as quickly as possible. But also with the same configuration on the Y-axis, that's really leaving it very good for swarf removal and evacuation, and allows us to be able to throw the part up and clear the component, as you can see there. So regarding DZ technology, as we see the benefits when we're sitting down with all of our customers, when we look at multi-spindle technology, we want to be able to make sure that we're offering the lowest cost per part, double productivity on the smallest footprint as we can, which obviously then leads to lower cost of ownership, as we have less wear parts, less machines. Obviously that leads to less operators required to stand in front of the machines, which obviously lowers and has benefit in cost there as well. Chiron also in twin spindle basket changer, which equals the fastest global twin technology in the world. The DZ12 2x64 tools also has gained the smallest footprint with that level of tool capacity in the market as well, which is another good first for Chiron. They've also been able to prove that they've had the longest market share since 1985 in double spindle technology, And further developments means another benefit to us is the move to independent spindles in the Z-axis for various customers that are going to be looking for that in the future. So I hope that concludes, and thank you very much, vielen Dank, for your time and looking into what the DZ program actually is from Chiron. So if I could open up to questions from the floor, I'd be very interested to see what people think.
Thanks, Graeme. That was great. You can Jackie Rhodes taught you well.
She did indeed. She did indeed. Learn from the master.
I'll just get the chat up and then we'll do some questions.
No problem.
Okay. Jamie Fletchmore.
Hey, Graeme.
Jamie?
Oh, yeah, good one. Good presentation there. Just a quick question there. Just when you're talking about twin spindle technology, some of the things we face with the customer is their twin technology over single spindle. And on a twin spindle machine, if a spindle goes down, then the whole machine stops. Whereas if you had two separate machines, then if one spindle goes down, you've still got production. From a sales point of view, what would your argument or what would your counteraction be against that?
I mean, that's always quite a sort of a typical question that most customers would actually put forward. And, you know, it's always going to be valid. You know, you can't always answer that. But, you know, normally I would say is from a productivity perspective, is when we actually look at the amount of floor space and the amount of operators required on there, most people would actually calculate it to have a limit of around about 85 or 80% efficiency. You know, I would say that there's enough in there to actually build a bit of fat to be able to give us some strength when we're actually putting that project forward. And I would always believe that the DZ is really the right platform if we're looking at that level of volume of high productivity.
Thank you.
Cheers, Jamie. So Gareth Jones has got a question.
Hi, Graeme. What year did you crown your Prince Albert?
That was end of 98, beginning of 99. And like I say, that was my first introduction to royalty, that. Obviously was a very, very funny year. That was my first major turnkey, but it was interesting how it sort of related to Rob Waite's presentation on what he was talking on, what Hi4 had produced.
Was it the same project, Graeme?
It was, yeah, it was. That was the first time Gary and Hi4 at that particular time were starting to work very, very closely with Chiron UK.
Okay.
And David Broomfield, one of my technical engineers, worked with us, and we put together a great little solution for them.
So you'd said that this is a sweet spot for medium high volume, and obviously yesteryear it would have been the automotive sector. Where do you see the sweet spot for this moving in the next 5 years for the Chiron DZ?
I think obviously Chiron's automotive roots are very, very strong. And obviously we've seen a big move away in production of high volume to countries abroad. But I think if you look at the current circumstances we're going through at the moment, and you start to see how that could potentially affect some of our production lines in the UK, it may actually start to be a bit of an introduction to look at a shift of production back to the UK market. But I think the e-mobility is going to be very strong. We know that from what we've been talking to at Gestamp, and we can see what their plans are for the further future development. And I think certainly we need to be closer to JLR to see what they're doing in their own plants, because I do think the 28 has some very, very significant step changes in the type of components they're going to be producing in the future. So I still think automotive would be good. I do think double spindle, twin spindle technology could see more development in the aerospace field as well. Obviously, with the current situation being what it is, it's not great for a lot of automotive aerospace production. But at the end of the day, people are still going to be flying, and it will come back, and it may not be till 2021. But I think there's a big shift now to try and get more of the A320 high volume components onto double spindle technology, definitely.
I'll slip my own question in on that as well. So the speed of the Chirons, would you, when they talk about reliability, would you say the speed is detrimental to the to the life of the parts and stuff.
Yeah, well, I think there's a lot of things that can be detrimental to most particular systems, Martin, as you know, and we've had various talks on this over the years. But I think Chiron production and productivity wise regarding their reliability, and I think they went through a bit of a patch of some of their R&D lost its way a little bit. But I do think with the new designs that they've got coming through now, I think some of the issues that we've seen in our service department should be really, really put to bed. And I do see some really significant design changes there. That's going to be a very interesting future for us and for our service engineers and application department.
Steve Brown, you've got a question.
Hi, Graeme. Great presentation.
Hello there, Steve.
Well done. Couple of points. Your first one on your pictures of your great times at Chiron don't seem to match up with the pictures that I've got of you at Chiron having the great time. So,
well,
must have been
yeah, well, I did have to look through that, and of course, my wife did have a look at some of the pictures as well. So, of course, I can probably imagine some of the pictures you've seen, and that's why I didn't put my Chiron tie on, because I lost it many years ago, as you know, Steve. But,
we'll skip past that one.
We did try and keep it easy.
So the Chiron strapline of seconds ahead. Within reason, a machine time is machine time. So what a couple of features from a Chiron actually makes them seconds ahead?
I think where Chiron are looking at their design and their machines, obviously the highest level of productivity is the key to their philosophy. And certainly with the tool changes, the way that they design the tool changes, they look at being able to keep those as the fastest tool changes on the market. And certainly that's still the key with their patented design of the basket changer today, still stands. But obviously with the pickup spindles, they still look to outbeat majority of markets, competitive markets that we see, where we're much quicker in that area. And also with the workpiece changer, when we start to generate workpiece change into the cycle there as well, we need to look at how quickly we can change that pallet, how quickly we can get that spindle back into production. And normally with the spindles as well, the motors tend to be much bigger than they would actually need to be, producing much higher power. But that's basically to get from 0 to cutting speed as quickly as possible and back to 0 as quickly as possible, therefore limiting as much downtime as possible.
Okay, thanks, mate.
Cheers.
Thanks, Steve. Gordon Coates. Yeah, that's what I thought.
I can answer that one, Gordon. That's easy.
Shall I unmute you for you? Go on in.
Please. Thank you. Hi, Graeme.
Hello there, Gordon.
What percentage of 4-spindle models do Chiron sell?
Well, as I say, was in the slide. The TZ was a program that they started to be able to give an offshoot of people that were potentially looking at SP type markets where, you know, you want to go greater than 500,000 components per year. So the TZ is available only in the 15 series, but normally for quite small components. But as I say, about a quarter of all machines sold are twin spindle technology. Probably related to the TZ is probably around about 5 or 6%. So they don't see a massive market for that, but they do keep it there for customers that do actually see some possibilities rather than buying a special purpose machine, which has got massive investment day one while you try to ramp up production.
And how widely are the linear motors used? Is it on all axes and available?
Well, certainly the video that you saw on the DZ08, the Precision Plus machine that they've actually come out with in the 08 and the 12 run linear motors now in all axis. And certainly, as you could see, the impeller market there, which has obviously been very big market to Chiron, was quite a significant step change in power and acceleration that they're able to achieve within that machine. Even on the same impeller, you can see against the current machine to the new Precision Plus using all linear motors was almost shaving 50% off that cycle time. So it's going to be an area of the market that they're going to be moving into. The mill series long bed machines, rather than having very long ball screws, has moved over to linear motors. And certainly with the gantry design styles of the machines we can see now, it really does lend itself to linear motors in those axes.
Okay, thanks.
No problem.
Okay, I think we're out of questions then, Graeme.
Okay, I can count myself lucky.
Yeah, great presentation as always from you. So thanks very much for that, good man.
No problem, my pleasure.
We'll give you a clap. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much. It's great.
I just had to mute it again before Paul added the rest. So tomorrow we do have Rob Waite back on, telling us, Rob Waite from High 4, telling us about the Mideco pallet changer. So same time, same place tomorrow. Thanks again. Have a good evening. Cheers all.
Cheers.
Bye.
Hey guys.
Yes.
Bye.